The test says you can never carry a child. Thomas Ward's words crossed the winter moon court so clearly that Hannah Miller heard someone gasp 30 feet behind her. She remained standing beneath the white ceremonial lanterns while nearly 200 members of Pine Ridge Pack watched from the snow-covered courtyard. The temperature had fallen to 26 degrees, yet Hannah barely felt the cold. She felt Ryan Cooper's silence. He stood beside the council platform wearing the silver insignia of Pack leadership, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed somewhere beyond her shoulder. Hannah had known him since childhood. He had once promised that whatever happened, she would never face the Pack alone. Tonight, he could not even look at her. Madison Blake stepped forward in a dark blue winter dress. "This is painful for everyone," she said softly. Hannah almost laughed. There was something especially cruel about hearing sympathy from the woman who had delivered her fertility medicine every morning for 3 years. "Is it?" Hannah asked. Madison's expression tightened. "Pine Ridge has traditions, and Omega has responsibilities to the future of the Pack." A whisper moved through the crowd. Hannah looked at Thomas. The elderly healer still held the medical report, but his attention had shifted to a second page on the table. His brow furrowed. "I have not finished reviewing the full panel," he said. One councilman cleared his throat. "The relevant finding is already clear." Hannah turned toward him. "Relevant to what?" No one answered immediately. Then Ryan finally spoke. "The council voted before tonight's ceremony." Hannah stared at him. "Before the examination was finished?" Ryan's silence answered for him. Something inside Hannah became strangely calm. The humiliation remained, but beneath it came clarity. This had never been a medical conversation. It was a verdict waiting for evidence convenient enough to justify it. The council elder rose. "Hannah Miller, by decision of Pine Ridge leadership, you will surrender your Pack insignia and leave the territory before midnight." Madison lowered her gaze as though the sentence saddened her. Hannah reached for the small silver Pine emblem at her collar. Ryan stepped toward her. "Hannah, let me." "No." The single word stopped him. She removed the insignia herself and placed it in his open palm. "You already made the decision without me. You do not get to make this part easier for yourself." Ryan closed his fingers around the emblem. Hannah picked up her canvas bag and walked through the crowd. No one stopped her. Near the stone archway, Thomas suddenly called, "Hannah." She turned. He hurried toward her, catching her wrist as though checking her pulse one final time. His fingers remained there longer than necessary. His face changed. "What is it?" she whispered. Thomas glanced toward the council table, then toward Madison. Madison was watching them. "Nothing," Thomas said quickly. He released Hannah, but something small remained pressed against her palm. "Folded paper." "Go," he murmured. Hannah closed her hand and continued through the gate. 10 minutes later, Pine Ridge was disappearing behind the trees. Snow drifted across the northern road, and the moon cast a pale line through the forest ahead. Only when Hannah was certain she was alone did she unfold Thomas's note. 7 words were written in hurried black ink. "Do not let them take your blood again." Hannah read Thomas's warning 3 times before folding the note and slipping it deep inside her coat pocket. The northern road disappeared beneath fresh snow, and Pine Ridge was already hidden behind the trees, but his words followed her into the darkness. "Do not let them take your blood again." She had walked nearly 3 miles when she heard the first branch snap behind her. Hannah stopped. Wind moved softly through the pines. Nothing else. She tightened her grip on the canvas bag and continued. 30 seconds later, another sound came from behind her. Footsteps. More than one set. Hannah increased her pace without looking back. The footsteps followed. Her heartbeat quickened. She left the road and moved between the trees, where the snow reached halfway up her boots. 3 dark figures appeared through the falling snow. Hannah recognized one of them from Pine Ridge patrol duty. Confusion replaced some of her fear. "I was ordered to leave," she called. "I am leaving." The tallest man stepped forward. "We need you to come back." Hannah stared at him. "The council banished me less than an hour ago." He glanced toward the others. "Orders changed." "Whose orders?" Silence. Hannah slowly backed away. The second man spoke quietly, apparently believing the wind would hide his voice. "Bring her back alive. No blood." Hannah froze. "No blood." Her hand moved instinctively toward Thomas's note. The warning and those 2 words connected with terrifying precision. "Why does anyone care about my blood?" she asked. None of them answered. Hannah turned and hurried deeper into the forest. The men followed, never rushing, as though they had been told not to frighten her more than necessary. That restraint unsettled her almost as much as pursuit would have. The ground sloped downward toward a narrow frozen creek. Hannah reached the edge and realized the ice was broken in several places, making the crossing unsafe. She turned. The three trackers emerged from the pines about 20 feet away. "Hannah," the tallest said, "we are not here to hurt you." "Then stop following me." He took one careful step forward. A deep growl rolled through the trees. Everyone stopped. Two silver eyes appeared between the pines. Then an enormous black wolf stepped into the moonlight. Snow clung to its dark coat, and its gaze settled calmly on the three men. Hannah expected shouting. Instead, she saw recognition. The tallest tracker went pale. "Back away," he whispered. Within moments, all three retreated into the forest. The wolf did not chase them. It simply remained between Hannah and the path they had taken until their footsteps disappeared. Then it turned toward her. Hannah's breath caught. Up close, the animal was larger than any wolf she had seen around Pine Ridge. Yet there was nothing wild in the way it watched her. It seemed almost thoughtful. The wolf shifted its weight, and Hannah noticed it favoring one front leg. "You are hurt," she whispered. She could have run. Instead, she slowly removed her scarf. "You helped me. Let me help you." The wolf watched as she approached, but it did not move away. Hannah carefully wrapped the scarf around its injured leg, keeping her movements gentle. When she finished, the wolf lowered its head toward her hand. Then its silver eyes shifted toward the pocket containing Thomas's note. Hannah stared at it. "You know something, do you not?" The wolf lifted its gaze to hers. Somewhere far behind them, one of the trackers called to another through the trees. The black wolf immediately turned toward a narrow trail Hannah had never noticed. It walked several yards, stopped, and looked back. Hannah understood the invitation. For reasons she could not explain, following a mysterious wolf suddenly felt safer than returning to the people who had called her worthless and then changed their minds the moment she disappeared. The black wolf led Hannah through the forest for almost a mile before an old ranger cabin appeared beneath the snow-covered pines. Its windows were dark, but the door opened easily, and inside she found dry firewood stacked beside a small iron stove. Hannah managed to start a fire while the wolf settled near the entrance, watching the forest as though it had appointed itself her guard. "You know, this is officially the strangest night of my life," she murmured. The wolf glanced at her. Hannah pulled a piece of bread from her canvas bag and offered half. It stared at the bread, then at her, with an expression so unmistakably unimpressed that she almost smiled. "Fine. More for me." She sat on the edge of the narrow cot and pulled Thomas's note from her pocket. "No blood." The trackers had used the same phrase. That could not be coincidence. She remembered Madison arriving every morning with her herbal mixture, always insisting Hannah finish every drop. She remembered medical examinations where results were discussed around her instead of with her. She remembered Ryan telling her to trust the healers. Somewhere between those memories, exhaustion finally won. When Hannah woke, pale morning light filled the cabin. The fire had burned low. The wolf was gone. A man stood near the window. Hannah sat upright immediately. He wore dark winter clothes, and her scarf was wrapped around his left forearm. "Who are you?" He turned. Silver eyes met hers. Hannah looked at the scarf, then back at his face. "You were the wolf." The stranger raised one eyebrow. "You sound surprisingly calm about that." "I was banished, followed through a forest, and rescued by a wolf before midnight. My standards for surprising have changed." Something close to amusement crossed his face. "Alexander." "Alexander what?" "For now, Alexander is enough." Hannah did not like mysterious answers anymore. "Not for me." His expression became more serious. "Fair." His gaze shifted toward her wrist, where faint silver-gray lines showed beneath her sleeve. "How long have you had those marks?" Hannah covered them instinctively. "Why?" "Because I have seen them before." That stopped her. Alexander remained several feet away. "May I look?" The question surprised her almost as much as his transformation had. After everything Pine Ridge had decided without asking, permission felt unfamiliar. Hannah slowly extended her arm. Alexander examined the marks without touching her. "How long?" "Almost 3 years." "Did they appear before or after you started taking medicine?" Hannah thought carefully. "After." "What medicine?" Her throat tightened. "Fertility treatment." Alexander's expression changed. "Who prescribed it?" "The pack healers." Madison Blake brought it most mornings. Did you ever see the prescription? Hannah opened her mouth, then stopped. She searched 3 years of memories. Bottles. Cups. Reassuring words. Never a written prescription. No. Alexander's jaw tightened. Then stop calling it medicine. Hannah stood. What are you saying? He looked again at the marks on her wrist. Those are consistent with moon blood suppression. Hannah felt suddenly cold despite the fire. Suppression of what? A bloodline marker. She pulled Thomas's note from her pocket and handed it to him. Alexander read the 7 words, and something sharpened behind his silver eyes. Your healer discovered the same problem. Hannah stepped closer. Then tell me what everyone else refuses to tell me. Alexander returned the note. Whatever they gave you was not designed to help your body create something. He paused. It was designed to hide something already. Inside you. Hannah stared at Alexander as the last words settled between them. Something already inside you. For 3 years, Pine Ridge had taught her to see her body as a failure. Now a stranger was telling her the failure might have been manufactured. I need proof, she said. Alexander nodded. Good. Hannah frowned. Good. You should not trust me simply because I helped you last night. That answer surprised her. He glanced through the cabin window at the brightening forest. There is a medical outpost about 12 miles north. Dr. Eleanor Hayes can test the markings properly. Hannah folded Thomas's note and returned it to her pocket. And I am supposed to follow another mysterious man into the wilderness? No. You are supposed to decide whether finding the truth is worth 12 miles. An hour later, Hannah was walking beside him through 6 inches of fresh snow. Alexander never ordered her forward and never complained when she needed to slow down. By late morning, a stone compound appeared between the pines. 2 guards opened the iron gate the moment they recognized Alexander. Hannah noticed their sudden formality. Alexander noticed her noticing. Neither spoke about it. Inside, a woman with silver-streaked brown hair approached them. Alexander, you were expected yesterday. Her gaze moved to Hannah. I am Dr. Eleanor Hayes. Hannah remained near the doorway. Eleanor seemed to understand why. Nothing happens here without your permission, she said. Not an examination. Not a blood test. Nothing. Hannah touched Thomas's note through her coat. If you take my blood, who sees the results? You first, Eleanor replied. Then only whoever you authorize. For the first time in years, Hannah felt like a patient rather than evidence. She agreed. Eleanor examined the silver-gray markings, asked about the herbal mixtures, then carefully collected a small sample. Nearly 30 minutes passed before she returned carrying an old medical volume and 2 reports. Hannah, you are not barren. Hannah forgot how to breathe. What? Your natural reproductive markers are healthy. What I found instead is evidence of prolonged suppression. Hannah gripped the edge of the table. Then Pine Ridge was wrong. Eleanor's expression hardened. This was not an innocent mistake. She opened the old volume to a page marked with a crescent moon surrounded by 4 stars. You carry the markers of a moon-bearer, an extremely rare Omega bloodline. Hannah looked at Alexander. He had become completely still. Why would anyone hide that? Eleanor turned another page. Because moon-bearers were historically connected to royal lines. Their dormant markers can awaken when they encounter a uniquely compatible royal counterpart. Hannah looked down at her wrist. The silver-gray lines seemed slightly brighter than they had that morning. Awaken how? Eleanor chose her words carefully. First through royal resonance. In the rarest recorded cases, complete activation could produce what the old records called a moon-heir life signature. Hannah shook her head. How quickly? The records describe it as supernatural bond activation, not ordinary conception. It does not follow a normal reproductive timeline. The room went silent. Hannah tried to absorb the impossible explanation without losing hold of the simpler truth beneath it. Someone had spent years suppressing her bloodline. So the medicine was never about helping me have a child. No, Eleanor said. It was preventing your true markers from being detected. Hannah thought of Madison bringing the mixture every morning. Why? Eleanor looked at the laboratory report again. That is what concerns me. She placed the page in front of Hannah and pointed to a value that had begun rising since the suppressant level dropped. Whoever did this may not have been afraid that you could not carry an heir. Eleanor lifted her eyes. They may have been afraid of whose heir you could carry. Hannah kept staring at the rising value on Eleanor's report until a knock sounded at the examination room door. One of the outpost guards entered carrying a sealed envelope. This arrived from Pine Ridge by private courier. Hannah recognized Thomas Ward's handwriting before the guard finished speaking. She opened the envelope carefully. Inside were copied medical records, distribution logs, and a short letter. Thomas explained that after the winter moon ceremony, he had compared Hannah's newest blood sample with archived results from 3 years earlier. Several values had been changed, while a restricted suppressant code had been disguised beneath ordinary fertility treatments. He had also found something else. Hannah unfolded the final page and stopped breathing for a moment. Her mother's name was written across the top, Rebecca Miller. Beside it was the same crescent moon surrounded by 4 stars. "My mother was a moon bearer," Hannah whispered. Eleanor took the page and studied it. A confirmed one. Hannah touched the old bracelet around her wrist. Pine Ridge had always described Rebecca as an ordinary Omega from a northern family who died when Hannah was young. Another piece of Hannah's life had been hidden behind a simpler story. Alexander remained several feet away, giving her space. "What do the distribution records say?" he asked quietly. Hannah turned to the next page. Her eyes found one name repeated across dozens of entries. Madison Blake. She collected the suppressants. Eleanor examined the dates. Almost every week for 3 years. Hannah remembered Madison standing at her kitchen table each morning, stirring herbs into warm water and telling her not to lose hope. The kindness of those memories now felt colder than the snow outside. Did she know what they were? Hannah asked. Eleanor shook her head. These records prove she collected them. They do not prove how much she understood. Hannah appreciated the distinction. She wanted truth, not another convenient verdict. Eleanor carried Thomas's documents into the laboratory and returned 20 minutes later with a fresh report. Her expression had changed. "The suppressant level in your blood is continuing to fall. Is that dangerous?" "Not by itself, but something else has appeared." Eleanor placed the report on the table. A royal resonance marker. Hannah remembered the old medical volume. "You said that happens when a moon-bearer encounters a compatible royal counterpart." "Yes." Hannah slowly looked toward Alexander. He stood near the window, his silver eyes unreadable. "Could there be another explanation?" she asked. Eleanor considered the question. "Not one supported by the records I have." Hannah turned fully toward him. "Alexander, who are you?" Before he could answer, a warning bell rang outside. The guard at the doorway immediately moved toward the courtyard. Eleanor crossed to the window. "Riders from the south." Hannah joined her. 5 horses were approaching along the snow-covered road. At the front rode Ryan Cooper. Beside him was Madison Blake. Hannah felt her pulse quicken, but she did not step away from the window. Yesterday, Pine Ridge had wanted her gone before midnight. Hours later, its leaders had crossed miles of winter forest to find her. Alexander moved beside Hannah, calm and watchful. "You do not have to speak to them." Hannah looked at Madison below, then at Thomas's records in her hands. "Yes," she said quietly. "I do." She folded the documents and held them against her chest. For 3 years, Madison had brought a cup to Hannah's door and called it hope. Now Hannah finally had the records showing what had been inside it. And this time, she would be the one asking the questions. Ryan stopped outside the iron gate with Madison beside him and 3 Pine Ridge guards waiting several yards behind. Hannah walked into the courtyard carrying Thomas's records beneath one arm. Alexander stayed near her, but he did not move ahead of her. "Hannah," Ryan called, "come home. We need to correct what happened last night." She stopped about 15 feet from the gate. "You banished me before my examination was finished." Ryan's face tightened. "The council acted on incomplete information." "The council had incomplete information because someone changed it." Madison stepped forward. "You are frightened and confused. Whatever these people have told you, Pine Ridge can explain." Hannah removed Thomas's distribution log and held it where Madison could see it. "Then explain this." Madison recognized the document. Her expression changed for only a second, but Hannah caught it. "You collected my treatments almost every week for 3 years. I collected what the healers prepared. Did you know they were suppressants?" Madison lifted her chin. "Of course not." Hannah studied her carefully. "Then why did 3 Pine Ridge trackers follow me after I was banished?" Ryan looked sharply toward Madison. "Trackers? They were ordered to bring me back alive. They were specifically told, no blood." Ryan's confusion looked genuine. Madison answered too quickly. "They were sent because conditions in the forest were dangerous." Hannah felt something settle inside her. "I never told you they were Pine Ridge trackers." Madison went still. Ryan slowly turned toward her. Before anyone could speak, another rider appeared along the southern road. Thomas Ward approached the gate carrying a leather case. "I can answer the question," he said. After the guards admitted him, Thomas placed a copied dispatch record into Hannah's hands. "I found this after sending the medical files. 3 patrol members were reassigned 40 minutes after your banishment." Hannah read the authorization line. "Madison Blake." Ryan stared at the page. "You sent them?" Madison's composure finally began to crack. "I was trying to prevent a mistake from becoming permanent." "What mistake?" Hannah asked. Madison did not answer. Alexander spoke for the first time. "Hannah, do you want to go with them?" The simplicity of the question silenced everyone. Hannah looked at Ryan, then Madison, then the gate beyond them. Less than 1 day ago, Pine Ridge had decided where she belonged without asking her. Alexander had enough presence to command the entire courtyard, yet he waited. "No," Hannah said. Alexander nodded once. "Then you are staying." Ryan frowned. "This is Pine Ridge business. Who are you to interfere?" A deep horn sounded from the northern road. Several black vehicles emerged between the snow-covered trees, each carrying a silver crest Hannah recognized from history books. The Kane Royal Seal. The convoy stopped outside the compound, and uniformed guards entered the courtyard. Their captain approached Alexander and bowed. "Your Majesty, the royal escort is ready." Hannah stared at Alexander. Ryan lowered his gaze immediately. Thomas bowed his head. Even Madison lost color. "Alexander Kane," Hannah whispered. He turned toward her. "Yes." "The Alpha King." "Yes." She searched his face. "You should have told me." "I should have," he said quietly. "But I wanted you to decide whether you trusted the man before the crown complicated the answer." Hannah was still deciding how she felt about that when Eleanor hurried from the medical building, carrying a report. "Hannah," I repeated the analysis. Everyone turned toward her. "The royal resonance marker has strengthened." Eleanor paused, looking from Hannah to Alexander. "And something new has appeared beside it." Hannah's fingers tightened around Thomas's records. "What?" Eleanor lowered her voice. "A second life signature." By sunset, Hannah stood beneath the towering windows of Blackwood Keep, while representatives from 7 neighboring packs filled the Royal Moon Court. Less than 24 hours earlier, Pine Ridge had judged her beneath winter lanterns and sent her into the forest. Now another court waited, but this time Hannah was standing because she chose to be there. Alexander occupied the royal platform in a formal black coat marked with the silver cane crest. He had offered Hannah a place beside him. She had declined. She wanted to stand beside Eleanor and Thomas, where the evidence rested on the council table. Ryan and Madison waited across the chamber. Thomas opened his leather case first. "These are Hannah Miller's original medical records from 3 years ago." He placed several pages beside the altered copies. Her moonbearer markers were removed from later reports, and restricted suppressants were recorded under ordinary fertility treatment codes. A councilwoman leaned forward. "Who collected those suppressants?" Thomas placed the distribution log on the table. "Madison Blake collected most of them." Madison remained composed. "I collected sealed treatments prepared by medical staff. That does not prove I knew what they contained." Hannah watched her carefully. "Then why did you send trackers after me?" Thomas produced the dispatch record from the outpost. "That authorization is also documented." Ryan looked at Madison with open disbelief. "You told me no one followed her." Madison's voice sharpened. "I was trying to correct the council's mistake." "After helping create it?" Hannah asked. Madison looked away. Eleanor stepped forward before the argument could grow. "There is another matter. Someone accessed the outpost communications system shortly after Hannah's second examination. The confidential report was opened and transmitted to an outside receiver." Alexander's expression hardened. "Which report?" "The one concerning the second life signature." A murmur spread through the chamber. Madison suddenly laughed. "You cannot build a royal future around a child that should not even exist." Silence fell so completely that Hannah heard the fire crack inside the stone hearth. Eleanor stared at Madison. "I never said the second signature was a child." Madison's face lost its color. Ryan took one slow step away from her. Hannah felt the pieces locked together. "How did you know?" Madison said nothing. Alexander rose from the platform, but his voice remained controlled. "Answer her." Madison looked toward the council, then back at Hannah. "You do not understand what your bloodline means." "Then explain it." "Your mother attracted royal attention years ago." When you showed the same markers, Pine Ridge leadership feared history would repeat itself. Hannah's chest tightened. So you suppressed me. I kept the pack stable. You made me believe there was something wrong with me. Madison's composure finally broke. Because if your bloodline awakened, Pine Ridge could lose you to the crown. Hannah almost could not believe the simplicity of it. They had stolen years from her because they feared losing control. Eleanor approached carrying a sealed report. The final confirmation is complete. Hannah turned. What did you find? Eleanor looked first at Hannah, not Alexander. The second signature is stable, and it carries a hereditary marker associated exclusively with the Kane royal line. Hannah's pulse seemed to stop. Across the chamber, Madison whispered, "That is impossible." Eleanor shook her head. Not according to the Moonbearer records. Hannah looked toward Alexander. He did not smile. He did not claim the moment. He simply descended from the royal platform and stopped several feet away, waiting for Hannah to decide whether she was ready to hear what came next. Hannah looked at the sealed report in Eleanor's hands, but she could still hear Madison's confession echoing through the chamber. Pine Ridge had not feared that Hannah was worthless. They had feared that one day she would discover she was valuable beyond their control. "Tell me everything," Hannah said. Eleanor stepped toward the council table and opened the ancient Moonbearer record beside the new laboratory results. Your bloodline remained dormant because of the suppressants. Once those substances began leaving your system, your natural markers returned. Then you encountered Alexander. Hannah glanced at him. He remained several feet away. The royal resonance appeared afterward. Eleanor continued. Exactly as the historical records describe. One councilman frowned, but the second signature appeared within hours. How can that be possible? Eleanor turned several pages in the old volume. Because moon air activation does not follow ordinary omega biology. The surviving records describe it as a supernatural bond event. When a fully awakened Moonbearer encounters her uniquely compatible royal counterpart, the bond can create an immediate life signature. That signature develops according to Moonbearer laws, not an ordinary reproductive timeline. Hannah felt the room disappear around her for a moment. She remembered the black wolf standing between her and the trackers, Alexander waiting outside the cabin while she decided whether to trust him, his refusal to touch her wrist without permission, his question at the outpost, "Do you want to go with them?" Every moment had seemed separate. Now they formed a path. Madison shook her head. Yesterday Pine Ridge declared her barren. Today you expect 7 packs to believe she carries a royal heir. Eleanor lifted the new report. Yesterday Pine Ridge relied on altered records. Today we have 3 independent tests. Hannah's restored Moonbearer markers, royal resonance, and a second signature carrying the hereditary Kane marker. Ryan lowered his eyes. Thomas looked toward Hannah with quiet relief. Madison turned to Alexander. "Then say it. Your Majesty, tell everyone she belongs to you now." Alexander's expression changed. Not anger. Something colder and calmer. "Hannah belongs to herself." The words silenced the chamber. He looked only at her. There is one conclusion in Dr. Hayes's report that the court has not heard. Hannah understood from his expression that he already knew. "And you are waiting for me?" "Yes." "Why?" Alexander glanced around the chamber. "Because people have spent years discussing your body as though your voice were optional. I will not become another one of them." Something tightened behind Hannah's eyes. She looked at Eleanor. "Are you certain?" Eleanor nodded. "I repeated the analysis 3 times. Hannah lowered her gaze to the crescent-shaped markings now visible along her wrist. Yesterday those marks had meant nothing to her. Yesterday, she had walked away from Pine Ridge believing an entire future had been denied to her. She raised her eyes to Alexander. "You may tell them." Only then did he smile. It was not the smile of a king claiming victory. It was gentle, almost astonished, as though the truth humbled him too. Alexander stepped down from the final stair until he stood on the same floor as Hannah. "You were never barren," he said. Hannah's breath caught. His silver eyes remained fixed on hers. The diagnosis was built on years of suppression and altered records. He paused, allowing the truth to belong to her before it belonged to the court. Then his voice softened. "Hannah, you carry my heir." No one moved. Hannah placed one hand gently over her abdomen, overwhelmed less by the revelation than by everything it erased. 3 years of shame. 3 years of believing she had failed. 3 years of accepting other people's definition of her worth. Alexander did not reach for her. He simply waited. And for the first time, Hannah understood that the most powerful thing about the Alpha King was not that an entire kingdom obeyed him. It was that when her whole world was waiting for his command, he was still waiting for her choice. For several seconds after Alexander spoke, Hannah heard nothing except her own breathing. The royal moon court, filled with leaders who had spent the evening arguing over bloodlines, laws, and inheritance, was finally silent for her. She lowered her hand and looked toward the council. I do not want revenge. Madison blinked as if the answer surprised her. Hannah continued. I want every altered medical record investigated. I want every unauthorized suppressant traced. I want to know who approved them, who distributed them, and who knew what they were doing. She looked toward Ryan. And I want Pine Ridge to understand that silence does not become innocence simply because someone else told the first lie. Ryan lowered his gaze. Hannah turned back to the council. No Omega should be exiled because she cannot have a child. No one should be forced into testing or treatment without informed consent. And no pack should decide that a woman's bloodline gives them ownership over her future. An elderly councilwoman rose first. I support an immediate royal review. Another representative stood. Then another. Alexander waited until the council had spoken before addressing the chamber. Effective immediately, no pack subject to Cain law may use fertility status alone as grounds for banishment. All moonblood suppressants will require documented medical authorization and informed consent while the investigation proceeds. Madison's authority over Pine Ridge medical matters was suspended pending review. Thomas's records were placed under royal protection. Ryan stepped toward Hannah only after the court had begun to empty. I believed the reports, he said quietly. I believed Madison. But I also saw how they treated you. And I did nothing because questioning the council would have been difficult. Hannah studied the man who had once promised she would never stand alone. I believe you are sorry. Hope flickered across his face. That does not mean I am ready to forgive you. Ryan nodded slowly. I understand. Hannah watched him leave without feeling the satisfaction she once imagined an apology would bring. Instead, she felt something quieter. Freedom. Near dawn, she stepped onto a high balcony overlooking Blackwood Valley. Snow covered the rooftops below, and pale gold light was beginning to appear beyond. The mountains. Alexander joined her carrying a small silver crescent insignia. He placed it on the stone railing between them. Hannah recognized it immediately. The Luna insignia. Yes. She looked at him. Is the kingdom expecting me to wear it? A faint smile touched his face. The kingdom expects many things. What do you expect? Alexander looked toward the sunrise. For you to decide what happens next. Hannah glanced at the insignia. What if I am not ready? Then you are not ready. What if I need months? Take months. Hannah almost smiled. What if your kingdom gets impatient? Alexander finally looked at her. Then the kingdom learns to wait. Hannah left the Luna insignia untouched on the railing. Instead, she extended her hand toward him. Alexander looked at it for a moment before gently taking it. There was no ceremony, no command, and no council deciding what the gesture meant. Hannah had entered the winter believing her worth depended on what she could give a pack. Now she understood that dignity had never belonged to Pine Ridge to grant or remove. Beside her stood the most powerful alpha in the kingdom, yet his greatest strength was the gentleness to let her choose. As the first sunlight spread across the snowy valley, Hannah looked toward a future that finally belonged to her. If her journey reminded you that true strength can be gentle and that dignity should never depend on another person's judgment, like this story, share it with someone who believes in courage and second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more stories of destiny, justice, and love.